I'm so excited, Eric. I am so excited.
Is it happening? Is it happening? Is it really happening?
When we came up with ideas for this week, and we threw out a couple of ideas, and then I told you, I said, I'm going to give you a gimme, an easy, like, we're going to have this softball episode.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be so easy to find information
so
on
easy.
it because it's such a good topic. And I am so excited to talk about what might be the most compelling minute of film ever recorded.
Definitely the most famous.
If you've ever seen the Bigfoot silhouette with the Bigfoot in half stride, which is sort of synonymous with Bigfoot, you will know, and you can hear the excitement. You can hear it. You will know
this is his radio announcement voice, folks.
You will know that comes from the Patterson-Gimlin footage. I don't know about you. For me, this is almost like where my Bigfoot fascination started. I saw this clip of video a million times. I've seen it a million times. Every time someone comes up with hey, we've stabilized it, I look it up and I watch it again. I've probably seen this footage once a year, every year that I've been alive.
Made into signs, decals that you could put on your car. I mean, that famous silhouette, as you said.
So, is it real? Is it maybe the most elaborate and long-lived hoax of all time? The Patterson-Gimlin footage. We're going to talk about it.
From a child born into this world, we are taught what to believe. Closed-minded we become, fearful to be deceived. Still we desire to know what lies beyond that locked door. The art of the storyteller, conjuring tales of legend and lore. History hidden, lost knowledge, things forgotten and the unknown. These are the things that direct us and will set the tone. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Shot on October 20th, 1967, in Northern California along Bluff Creek. This 56, 59 seconds of footage?
That wasn't long.
Was filmed by Roger Patterson and Robert Bob Gimlin. Since the filming of this footage, Patterson has since passed on. He died in 1972 of cancer. But he maintained right up until the end that the creature in the film was real. And Gimlin has always denied being involved in any sort of hoax with Patterson. Even though Gimlin himself mainly avoided talking about the video from the early 70s when it was filmed through 2005, when he finally began giving interviews and appearing at Bigfoot conferences.
And I will say it's frame number 352 out of that 50-second whatever clip. That is the most.
That's the one.
That's the one. Frame 352.
I can sit here and mimic
Bill
that
is
pose.
literally making the pose. I know you guys can't see that, obviously, but where Patty, as she was affectionately named, kind of turns, pauses, got the arms kind of flexed, and is looking back.
Yep.
That iconic representation that I think if you mention Bigfoot to anyone, that some form of representation is what comes to mind.
If you mention Bigfoot, most people probably have that grainy footage in their head. Even if you're not a Bigfoot person, you have almost certainly seen this little clip of video. So, of course, due to the nature of the subject, this video has been the subject of many attempts to authenticate or debunk over the years. And to date, there's no one analysis has ever proven satisfactorily one side of the argument or the other.
Yep.
No one has ever clearly concluded that it is fake. No one has ever clearly concluded that it is 100% authentic, that you are seeing a real life monster on film.
And let's face it, the easiest thing to do is throw stones and ridicule.
Yeah.
But to Bill's point, no one has been able to absolutely debunk this footage.
So
they've certainly tried.
Yeah, they have absolutely tried. So, in an effort to make my co-host here proud, we're going to talk about it. We need to get into the background a little bit.
Take her away, Bill.
Patterson became interested in Bigfoot after reading an article about the creature that was written by an Ivan T. Sanderson. Ivan T. Sanderson is a known expert in the field, if you will. This article was in True magazine in December of 1959. And this just sparked, his desire to want to learn more about the creature, to want to see the creature, to find the creature. And some argue that may be an indicator of, potential hoaxing. But in 1962, he visited the Bluff Creek area and talked with a number of Bigfoot believers. Now, Bluff Creek is apparently a hotspot. There have been a lot of sightings there, a lot of footprints. There's even a movie called Bluff Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it's Willow Creek. It's called Willow Creek.
Yes,
but it's based on the same kind of, it's based on the
I think
story.
I've actually watched that.
Kind of a weird movie. In 1964, he returned to Bluff Creek and met with a man named Pat Graves, who drove him to Laird Meadows, where Patterson saw fresh Bigfoot tracks. Now, for Patterson, this was an unbelievably exciting and spine-tingling experience. And,
as it would be for Bill Weirs.
Oh, yeah. No, I would love that.
And myself.
Yeah.
And myself.
And this really started Patterson down the road of trying to prove the existence of the creature. And, admittedly, he even said for the fame and fortune that would come with such a discovery. Now, he would go on to invest thousands of hours and dollars combing known Bigfoot territories in search of the elusive monster. This guy invested in this endeavor.
And from what I understand, Gimlin and Patterson were basically just cowboys.
They were cowboys, yeah.
Yeah, like rodeo kind of cowboys.
Yeah. Patterson, if I remember correctly in the research, Patterson had met in the rodeo. Patterson had ridden in an honest-to-God sheriff's posse at one point. So, they were cowboys.
Yeah.
Like the real deal. Now, of course, Patterson was confronted with constant ridicule, and he faced repeated funds shortages. When you're spending money and you're not making money on this deal, and of course, searching for Bigfoot, people are absolutely going to give you some flack.
Especially in that time frame.
Yeah.
We were not nearly as open-minded as even today.
Patterson founded the Northwest Research Foundation, and through the foundation, he solicited for funds to continue his search for Sasquatch. The response he received was encouraging, and it allowed him to lead several expeditions. In 1966, he published a book about his search at his own expense, entitled Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? The book was described as a collection of newspaper clippings, kind of laced together with Patterson's circus poster-style writings. He was a showman. He was, ex-rodeo cowboy. He was about the showmanship of it all.
He was trying to find a niche to be able to get his message out.
However, amongst the pages of the book, it did contain 20 pages of previously unpublished interviews and letters. Now, Patterson used profits from the book's sale and the lectures that he gave because of it to fund more searches. And in the May-June time frame...
That's devotion.
Yeah.
The guy's not pocketing money.
No.
He's not really doing it for the money. He's doing it to increase the research.
Ultimately, again, his objective was the fame and the fortune that would come with the discovery. But
he knows he hasn't got it yet, so I'm just going to keep on.
Is it one of those you gotta spend money to make money kind of things? Maybe.
Now, fake it till you make it, some people would say. It depends.
In the May-June time frame of 1967, Patterson began filming a pseudo-documentary, and the story being about some cowboys being led by an old miner and a native tracker on a hunt for Bigfoot. Now, Gimlin was slated to play the role of the native tracker. In October, Patterson and his friend Gimlin set out for the Six Rivers National Forest in far northern California. They were in Gimlin's truck, and they loaded up with provisions and 3 horses. And Patterson had chosen this area due to the reports of Bigfoot encounters in the past. And footprints of the creatures had been found there in that area since 1958, so it seemed to be a good spot to look. Now, even though Gimlin doubted the existence of Bigfoot, Patterson kind of pulled him along, if you will. And he did agree with Patterson that if they did see one, they should not attempt to shoot it. They were only going out there to find proof.
Unlike most people.
Early in the afternoon of October 20th, Patterson and Gimlin were riding northeast, upstream on horseback along the east bank of Bluff Creek. Sometime between 1:15 and 1:40, they came to an overturned tree in the creek with a root system almost as high as a room.
Which is in every bit of that footage.
Yeah, and it's there. It's there. You can see it. As they approached, they saw a log jam left over from the floods in 1964, and behind this, they spotted a figure almost immediately. They said it was crouching down beside the creek to their left on the opposite bank. Gimlin described himself as being in a mild state of shock upon first seeing the creature.
Well, he was probably the most non-believer of the two, obviously.
Now, Patterson, of course, he was ready to go. Now, he documented later he first thought the creature to be between 6'6" and maybe 7 feet tall. Later, he increased it to 7'6". Of course, analysis of video suggested the creature was probably closer to this original 6'6" estimate. And Gimlin said he thought the creature was probably 6 foot tall. But anyway, both men described what they saw at that moment. And they saw a creature that appeared to be a large, hairy, bipedal, ape-like figure, covered in short, silvery brown or dark reddish brown, or even maybe black hair. In the lighting, it was kind of hard to tell. It was also obviously female due to the presence of prominent hair-covered breasts, and Patterson estimated they were about 20 feet away from the creature at their closest. Patterson's horse reared up when he saw the creature, and he spent about 20 seconds just trying to get himself free from the saddle and get his horse back under control, because you don't want to spook it, right?
Right.
And he's got a camera. So he needs to get the horse under control so he can get to the
Needs to
camera.
be stable.
Well, he finally gets his horse calmed down, gets around to the other side. He gets his camera out of the saddlebag. Now, he starts approaching the creature while operating the camera, and that's why the beginning of the footage is quite shaky. And again, it's not the best. That's why it had to be stabilized. Now, as he's moving up, he kind of calls out to Gimlin, "Cover me!" So Gimlin crosses the creek on horseback after Patterson was taking off towards the creature, somewhat off to the left.
And again, just setting the pace, I think she was knelt. I say she, Patty was, the given name was knelt down, possibly eating a fish or getting a drink of water or whatever. So she's, I think, still knelt down up to this point until he starts to approach.
That's when she stands up. Gimlin rides off to the side, and Patterson would estimate that the Gimlin came within 60 to 90 feet of what they now call Patty, like you said. And at that point, he dismounted, got his rifle out, but he never aimed at the creature. He just was ready in case. So Patterson was about 80 feet from the creature when it glanced over its right shoulder. That's sort of the iconic, looking back scene. And at this point, Patterson fell to his knees. And I don't know if he's just shocked or he wanted to stabilize or whatever. But he later said that the creature's expression was one of, quote, contempt and disgust. You know how it is when the umpire tells you one more word and you're out of the game? That's the way it felt. So obviously, she didn't want him there.
Yeah.
Shortly after this is kind of when the film studies. Like I said, he drops down to his knees and he can kind of steady himself. And then shortly after it glances over its shoulder, the creature disappears behind a group of trees for about 14 seconds, reappears for the film's final 15 seconds, and that's, at that point, Patterson moves up about 10 feet to try to get a better vantage point, and then the creature fades into the trees again and is lost after reaching a distance of about 250 feet. So that is the filming.
The 16 millimeter camera film.
That's almost 60 seconds of footage that everybody, well, I won't say everybody, but everybody who was listening to our podcast should probably be fairly familiar
definitely.
with. And if you're not, hop on YouTube, look up Patterson-Gimlin Film. You'll find a million versions of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So Gimlin got back on his horse. He followed the creature at a distance as long as he could until it disappeared around a bend in the road about 300 yards away. Patterson called him back at this point, feeling kind of vulnerable out there without a rifle, just in case the creature had a mate in the vicinity.
My backup man left me. My wingman left me.
From start to finish, this whole thing lasted less than 2 minutes. They had to go round up Patterson's horses, which had run off in the opposite direction once he was no longer there to control them. After they got the horses back and kind of got everything settled down, Patterson reloaded his camera and filmed the tracks that Patty left behind. Then both men tracked the creature for about 1 to 3 miles before losing any possible tracks in the heavy undergrowth. They went back to camp, grabbed some plaster, returned to the site of the encounter, and they measured the creature's step length and made 2 plaster casts, one of each foot, found the best 2 impressions they could. About 6:30 that night, Patterson and Gimlin met with Al Hodgson at his variety store in Willow Creek. That's where the name of the movie comes from. This was about 54 miles south of their camp, and from there, Patterson mailed the film to his brother-in-law, Al DeAtley. He also asked Hodgson to call Donal Abbott, who was described as, quote, the only scientist of any stature to have demonstrated any serious interest in the Bigfoot subject. They returned to their camp with the intent of continuing the search the next day. However, heavy rains moved in that night, and they felt it best to leave before the roads got washed out. And as a matter of fact, the road they were going to take did get washed out, and they had to take an alternate route, which took them way, way out of the way.
And thank goodness they got those plaster casts almost immediately afterwards, or that would have been gone. Now, immediately, this video clip footage was highly debated and questioned. I mean, come on, people. People would say, come on. It's clearly some dude in a form of an ape suit. We've come a long way in filmography, in makeup application and monster outfits, even CGI, computer generated images today that are all too common in the films that we watch today. But this was back in 1967.
Yeah, that's the thing. The first time I ever saw this footage, we didn't do CGI yet.
No, far from it. So just how many full ape suits, were even available?
Well, not to be a guy poking holes, but the Planet of the Apes movies.
We're going to get into that.
I have that later on too.
But how many of them were of good quality to fool what you would expect to be scrutiny? I mean, if you're out here filming Bigfoot, you have to think, the reason why I'm doing all this, the reason why I'm taking the plaster cast, I'm going to follow up, is because I'm going to be met with a lot of scrutiny. You're not going to want to go buy a cheap ape suit because it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And if you look at this footage, again, consider 1967. Yes, it's 16 millimeter footage. It's a little grainy. It's a little shaky. But as Bill said, they've went in, they've stabilized, they've cleaned a lot of this up. pardon my French, that's a damn good ape suit.
Yeah.
I mean,
by all accounts.
Wow.
And again, I'm going to talk about the people that try to debunk it later, and I'm going to talk about the experts at the time and their opinions. But, there was some supporting evidence even at the time. A very compelling piece of this came from U.S. Forest Service Timber Management Assistant Kyle Laverty, who said that he and his team of 3 had passed that site on either Thursday or Friday before and noticed no tracks. After hearing about Patterson's encounter, they returned to the site on the 23rd, that Monday, and took photos of the tracks. So there was the physical evidence that had been there. And Laverty would later serve as an assistant secretary of the Interior under George W. Bush. So this is a guy
That's
who
about
obviously
as high
was
a level
important,
as you're going to get. Yeah.
and people must have trusted him. Taxidermist and outdoorsman Robert Titmus also went to the site with his sister and brother-in-law and made casts of 10 successive prints. So those prints were still there. And he plotted Patterson's and the creature's movements on a map as best he could. Now, although Patterson and Gimlin believed they had real proof of Bigfoot's existence, almost no serious scientist would even entertain looking at their footage. And those that did almost always expressed reservations about it, although some were willing to say they were intrigued by it. And even though he didn't get the fame he was looking for right away, Patterson was able to capitalize on the footage. He made a deal with the BBC allowing them to use his footage in a docudrama in return for letting him tour with said docudrama, into which he incorporated footage from his own documentary and additional footage he filmed later. He would also appear on numerous television shows in the U.S., including The Joe Pine Show in L.A., Merv Griffin's program, and Joey Bishop's talk show, as well as appearing on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than that at that time frame.
That was big. So I've got some more, the actual footprint, the casts. To many Bigfoot believers, as Bill was alluding to, it's not all about the video footage. However, it's more so often about what Bigfoot left behind, those big feet print casts where obviously it gets its name. Cliff Brockman has the largest collection of Bigfoot Sasquatch casts in all the world, numbering into the thousands. Now, you might recognize that name. Cliff is the co-host of Animal Planet series Finding Bigfoot. Cliff was interviewed for an Oregon Public Broadcasting television station who aired a special about the Bigfoot in the Oregon area. And while I was there, he shared some of the information about this particular case of the Patterson-Gimlin. He goes, with all of these thousands of foot casts here at his fingertips, as you can imagine, he's seen about every aspect of everything you can imagine, from complete horrible forgery fakes to what he feels is serious, legitimate proof. He goes back to the bending point or the area of the foot that is clear in the video footage, and he says to him, this is a telltale sign for him. It sets many prints apart from a maybe to an absolute in his own research. Again, not saying that many of the prints in his collection are fakes. They just don't have enough detail for him to put his stamp of, this is a legit or this is a fake. So hundreds kind of seem to fall in between that gap of the maybe, if you will. But he has copies of those Patterson-Gimlin castings, the same ones they collected that same day back in 1967. And he assures in all of his years of research and all of these thousands of foot castings that he has, those particular are absolutely the real deal. He feels ashamed the two men had to take so much beating and backlash of being called hoaxes, with several people seeming to almost attack them, publicly, claiming in one way or another that they might have even been involved, meaning these people coming forward, well, I know that can't be true. I was the guy in the ape suit, or I was hired to run around with these plaster casts on my feet. There's been a lot of that through the years, from, I'm going to get into, or maybe Bill will, the Bob Heronius.
Yeah, I've got stuff about
a lie detector test on TV claiming that, I was the guy, all of this. Well, why would some of these people come forward, and accuse Patterson and Gimlin of being fakes? What would they personally have to gain? Well, some argue that's simple. Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't get into it. I won't steal all of Bill's stuff here, but on the Bob Heronius deal, I think that was very, very obvious. There was another guy that came forward that said he made ape costumes. You got him too? Philip Morse. Guess what? Right after he said that was my ape suit, his magazine ads and newspaper articles said, just like the authentic one that made the famed Bigfoot. I mean, these people would try to get anybody down to raise them up. And we all know people like that. They're going to go up one way or another, and they'll step on whoever it takes to get there.
They increase their own stock by knocking them down. And again, like you said, Hieronymus did the lie detector test to say that he was the guy in the suit. Patterson did a lie detector saying that there was no forgery either.
Yeah.
So, there was both. So while Patterson sought out publicity with the film, Gimlin was conspicuous in his absence. He only helped briefly to promote the film and avoided talking about his encounter and would turn down numerous requests for interviews. He later went on to say this was due to conflicts regarding the profits from the film, as well as his wife objecting to the publicity. I don't think she wanted him associated with it. So a few days before losing his fight with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1972, Patterson told author Peter Byrne, quote, "In retrospect, he wished he would have shot the thing and brought out a body instead of a film." I mean, they would have had real proof. Byrne would later go on to say that after getting to know both men that they, quote, lacked primarily the intellectual capacity essential to the production of a hoax termed as a masterpiece, which is kind of
that's a
backhanded comment.
A rude compliment.
Yeah.
But
another writer would similarly write, most acquaintances of Patterson volunteered that neither he nor Gimlin were clever enough to put something that detailed together.
And I saw similar stuff in a lot of my research. We're not saying they were dumb. They were just cowboys.
Yeah.
With a devout interest, especially Patterson, in a topic that they just kept flipping money into trying to prove. I mean,
Yeah, according to Grover Krantz and Robert Pyle, years later, Gimlin would even agree that they should have shot the creature at the time, both for financial gain and for the proof for the naysayers. In 1955, Greg Long, a technical writer with a hobby of investigating Northwest mysteries, started interviewing people who knew Patterson, some of which described him as a liar and a con man. Now, here's this again, people poking holes in the story trying to say that, because he was a known con man, and he did have a lot of get-rich-quick schemes, if I remember correctly. He was always looking to make that money.
Some people could call that an entrepreneur.
Now, analysis of the film has been conducted by many experts in many fields. Zoologist Bernard Heuvelmans thought the creature was a human in a suit, pointing out that the subject's hair flow pattern is too uniform, that the hair on the breast is not usually found in any other primate, as well as, and I like this phrase, the buttocks being insufficiently separated. Gotta spread them cheeks.
All about that butt. Baby got back.
And
there's no crack.
He also said supposedly that this wild creature seemed too calm while walking away from two humans. Now, I will speak to experience that sometimes when you encounter a wild animal that's not used to being around people, they don't know how to react. So
I will respond in saying sometimes animals that are domesticated, a longhorn bull, they act pretty calm, cool, and collective because they know they can clean your plow.
That's true. I mean, again, something that much bigger and stronger.
Why would I fear you?
You ever seen the video? There's a video that goes around. It's from the Congo of a group of people going through the jungle, and a gorilla just walks right through their group. Like, what are you going to do to me?
Yeah.
Like, if they wanted to go, a gorilla could throw them every which way.
Absolutely.
Primate expert John Napier was one of the few mainstream scientists to seriously study the evidence available. And Napier admitted that while it was likely that Bigfoot exists, he also argued against the film being genuine, with his main arguments being that the footprints are at a variance with the calculated height. The footprints are also of the hourglass type, which he said made him suspicious. But he did say, quote, "I could not see the zipper and I still can't. There, I think we must leave the matter." Esteban Sarmiento, a specialist in physical anthropology at the American Museum of Natural History, wrote, quote, "I did find some inconsistencies in appearance and behavior that might suggest a fake, but nothing that conclusively shows that this is the case. His primary criticism is the difference of the light-colored sole of the foot and the dark-colored palm of the hand, with no other mammal having such a drastic difference between the color of the sole and the palm. He said also the body proportions are more human than those of living or fossil apes. Studies by David D. Diegeling and Daniel O. Schmidt, anthropologists, as well as Jessica Rose and James Gamble, authors of the definitive text on human walking, determined that most of the motions captured in the video could be duplicated by a person, but that this did not, with 100% certainty, prove that the video was a hoax. A first-season episode of Monster Quest examined the video and found, with the help of digital enhancement, facial movement, such as the eyelids moving, lips compressing like that of an upset chimpanzee, and a mouth that is lower than it appears to be due to a false lip anomaly, similar to what chimps have. Mm-hmm. So, these are sort of details that a hoaxer might not think to put in.
To build in, yeah.
They concluded, quote, "The new findings are intriguing, but inconclusive until a body is found." Another compelling bit of expert testimony came from Deal Sheets, head of the documentary film department, and a group of unnamed technicians with Universal Studios. Their conclusion was, quote, "We could try faking it, but we would have to create a completely new system of artificial muscles and find an actor who could be trained to walk like that. It might be done, but we would have to say it would be almost impossible." Disney executive Ken Peterson said after viewing the film, quote, that their technicians would not be able to duplicate the film. Author Greg Long also wrote, quote, "Disney's chief of animation and 4 assistants viewed Patterson's footage and praised it as a beautiful piece of work, although, they said, it must have been shot in a studio. When they were told that it had been shot in the woods of Northern California, they shook their heads and walked away." At the time, Disney was regarded as one of the greatest special effects houses in the world. If they couldn't duplicate it, who could?
I've got another one here. Ask Jeff Muldrum. He's a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State. He's one of the only few from the mainstream academics that takes a hard stance of, yes, Bigfoot is real. Jeff states, and I quote, "At this point, I am as confident as I can be, short of standing on the sandbar with Bob and Roger and seeing it myself. This is real." To most Bigfoot enthusiasts, not only is this 1967 footage of Patty, the Bigfoot, real, it is some of the best, solid, irrefutable evidence ever captured of the elusive creature. Officially, here we are well over 50 years later, this little 16mm film clip has yet to be debunked, as we have said, by physically looking at details within the videos. One of the things that sets this apart from other evidence that Jeff Muldrum is going on to saying here of this moving film footage, not just a single still life photo. So if you had a still life photo, it would be easier to fake.
Yeah.
Since we have this video, obviously 50 to 60 seconds, still that's a lot. You can see this movement. You can see the muscles moving, the foot bending. This adds up to so much more credentials to, the entire encounter that was captured. We can see the manner of which the creature walks. We can get a height based on the shadows in the background. We can look for hints of movement of the body. We can see details of the body, elongated skull dome, the stride, the upright, or shall I say almost hunchback style of fluid motion. Then let's not forget one of the most notable, the way in which the knees and foot in particularly move when walking. If you zoom in and you look closely at that foot impacting the ground and as she's pulling her foot up, it is not just the toes that move and flex like that of a human, whether they're wearing a suit or not. This creature's foot bends almost in the middle of the foot, which is a telltale sign, Jeff believes, similar to primates, the way a primate foot is in the way that she's walking. Bigfoot enthusiasts on this one single fact alone unite and state, this cannot be a human walking in a costume. They simply could not flex or bend their foot in this manner, regardless of what suit they might be in. It's humanly impossible. Jeff Muldrum, that we mentioned before, points out an argument for the theory, against this. It's a person in an ape suit. In the time frame, late 1960s to early 1970s, there was a very popular movie, a series, The Planet of the Apes, which, of course, like so many old ideas, Hollywood has rebirthed into the whole CGI versions that probably most of our listeners are more commonly used to watching in the 2000s to present day. Those original films, The Planet of the Apes, that won Academy Awards for their portrayal of ape-like creatures, essentially were humans in an ape costume. Obviously, everyone could still tell that. If Hollywood can't pull it off, what makes you think 2 cowboys out in the middle of the wilderness could?
Yeah, Meldrum himself said that the Bigfoot in the footage is far more realistic than the ape suits in Planet of the Apes.
He goes on and he says even in the Planet of the Apes, they're padded out in a way where they almost look like hairy versions of the Pillsbury Doughboy. There's just no muscle structure. So come on. The video footage shot by Patterson and Gimlin in 1967 looks nothing like any of that footage from Planet of the Apes. The body is all different. The fur, the muscles, the body motions, the stride, the walking cycle, and then obviously the bending of the foot in a different span. Why would Patterson and Gimlin have so much of a better ape outfit than Hollywood had during the filming of this high-budget series of movies? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, and let's go back to what those kind of backhanded compliments to help prove the reality.
They're not smart enough to do this.
A lot of people are saying these guys couldn't have made a suit that detailed. Now, Who could have?
If they had the money to spend.
Philip Morris, owner of Morris Costumes, came forward in 2002 saying...
Not associated with the cigarettes.
No, not associated with cigarettes. But he came forward claiming that he had made the gorilla costume that was used in the film and sold it to Patterson by mail order in 1967. He also claimed that after receiving the suit, Patterson contacted him to ask how to make the shoulders more massive and the arms look longer. Morris's wife also kind of stepped up and claimed that she helped him make the suit. So they're, you've got these people saying, oh, we made the suit. But if I remember correctly, suits later on, and again, he said that it was modified, but even Morris's suits don't look like the Bigfoot suit from the video.
No.
Now, if they had a suit, who was wearing the suit? Bob Hieronymus. He comes forward. He was another, I believe he was sort of a laborer, handyman type in the area. I watched a little clip of a video with him. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
He came forward claiming to be the man in the suit, with a lot of his relatives claiming to have seen an ape suit in his car.
And that was in 2005, by the way, he came forward.
Now, many note that Bob's shoulders are narrower than those of the creature in the film and that his arms are shorter, which sort of lends credence to Morris's claims. And Hieronymus himself even claims that he wore a helmet and football pads to help bulk up the suit and make him appear larger. In the video clip that I saw, Bob was saying that he gets stopped on the street when people see him walking to say, hey, you walk just like Bigfoot. And he goes, well, funny story.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And again, he could have practiced this walk for 30-something years to get it down pat to say, yeah, it was me.
Do you want my autograph too for $20?
Now, skeptics who take Hieronymus' side will point to a single frame of footage that shows a flash of light from Patty's right eye, but not her left. Now, this could be due to angles. It could be due to all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, I believe the footage that we see now is a copy of the original footage. So it may not even be, it could be an artifact or relic, something in the film.
Right.
Now, the reason this is notable is that Bob Hieronymus has a glass right eye. So if the light was going to shine on his eyes and one was going to catch the light just so, probably be that right eye.
Yeah. Back to the lie detector. I dove a little bit into that. And, obviously lie detecting is not the science that we thought it was.
It can be fooled.
Yes.
That's been proven.
Some of the things that I found with specialists in the lie detector field, they said what was so different about this is this guy's almost on the other side of the fence of what we would normally use a lie detector to prove or disprove. He is saying against everyone's beliefs, or a lot of people's beliefs, I am the guy in the ape suit. And they said with the way that the lie detector is hooked up and tested, honestly, it's, if you cut to the chase, it's more of a fancier, accurate version than reading tea leaves.
Well, yeah, it's checking for the reaction for a known lie, but it's also checking for the reaction in a guilty person lying.
And with the way that the questions were being phrased and the way this guy was coming forward contradicting the story, they said it would be much easier to fake and to fool. Now, I believe you mentioned, was it Patterson or Gimlin? Gimlin, I think, that went on and he had a lie detector test done, wasn't it?
In all of this, all these people saying it's a potential hoax, all these people saying it's real. Gimlin was once interviewed for the BBC show X Creatures, and he said, quote, I was totally convinced that no one could fool me. Of course, I'm an older man now, and I think there could have been the possibility, but it would have had to be really well planned by Roger. I mean, everything would have had to come together, would all had to have been orchestrated in such a way that...
So he's alluding that he could have been brought out totally innocent, not knowing it was possibly
he's saying if it was a hoax,
innocent.
he absolutely was not involved, but it would have had to have been all planned by Roger in advance.
But it fooled him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He says, I mean, again, they both said in the years later, like they should have shot it and brought the body out.
Which is a shame, but I totally get it.
So with all this talk, again, one of the most excited I've been for an episode in a long time, just because this is my childhood. This is sort
Bigfoot.
of this picture I've seen a million times. I've seen the footage. I'm fascinated by it. And of course, in the process of investigating and looking up things, I did stumble across bluffcreekproject.blogspot.com.
That's a mouthful.
And they had something there, Eric, if we ever get to go to California.
Ooh.
I have the directions.
The directions.
These are taken straight from that website. From Willow Creek, head north on Highway 96 for about 36 miles. Turn left on IC Road, the Go Road, and continue up the mountain for about 17 miles. Turn left on 12N12 towards Cedar Camp for about 1.7 miles. Turn right on 12N13 toward Louse Camp about 3.6 miles. And then turn right on 12N13H toward the film site for about 2 miles. Now, these miles, these are estimates only, so you gotta watch. Now, getting to the film site from the parking lot there is a short 30 to 45 minute walk, suitable and safe for families and children, but not recommended for people who have had bad knees or trouble walking. They say they've had people 400 pounds make the trip. They've had people 90 years old make the trip. So it's not too rough. The trail follows the old logging road cut to the creek. About 2/3 of the way down, the road is washed out and a small trail is available on the left side.
It's pretty specific.
Well, and I don't know, again, this is not a visual thing, but when I said left side, I made a right-handed motion when I should have made a left-handed motion.
I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to call you out.
Then you continue until you reach the bottom of the road by the creek. From here, there are 2 paths possible. The first is just to wade through the creek until you reach the site. The second and easiest is to take the trail on the gravel bar. Just walk upstream on the trail through the woods below the road you came down. Just keep heading to the end of the gravel bar where it meets the creek. From here, just hike in the creek itself. Keep hiking until you reach a small set of rapids with a small pool below. Just past these, on the left side of the creek, is a small cliff with a trail running up it. The flat area above is where Patty was filmed in the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, as we've talked about, a lot of towns and stuff, really embrace this. I'm almost surprised that's not made into a type of a, I hate to say a tourist trap, but, a site, a visiting site.
I think the group that's responsible for that website monitors it, because they mentioned that when you get to the site, on one of the trees, you'll see a plastic bottle, and inside the bottle is a rolled up log where people record when they visited the site. And I've seen footage from Willow Creek. They 100% embrace their Bigfoot heritage, and they're part of this story. There's a lot of Bigfoot
it'd be a shame
stuff.
if they missed out. I mean, this is the most famous.
When you talk about, like I said, when you talk about Bigfoot and people think of Bigfoot, this is what they're thinking.
Yeah, this may not be the earliest origin roots, but it's definitely the most popular. I mean, if Bigfoot was going to Hollywood, it would have been on that film.
Yeah.
Right there. Well, still, skeptics and haters are going to hate. It still comes down to the cold, hard facts, folks. While there are a great many believers, for every believer, there's probably 5 or more non-believers. And until someone produces an actual body still in good condition that can be guarded under lock and key to keep it from being lost or stolen like so many other things, we will not have the definitive proof necessary to win over the majority of the masses of the existence of Bigfoot. But if the Patterson-Gimlin 16mm video footage is a fake, it has to be the all-time best hoaxes ever done in history. These men were California cowboys.
Working class guys.
Working class guys. Not specialists in animal or primate anatomy to know any of these facts that we've talked about, to add these details. They would have not only faked the video footage, but then followed up with equal or little known details of the way the foot bends to capture that in the casting, the mold. Then having the time, much less the money, to buy apparently the most top-notch professional grade ape suit above Hollywood standards that would have ever existed decades before it should have existed.
When the Disney experts turn and walk away, no comment.
That says multitudes.
Because again, there. Disney, they were top of the heap for a long time.
I mean, if they can't do it, then I'm sorry, nobody can. I'm not sure. But I'm much like Fox Mulder and X-Files. I want to believe. I personally have not found myself at the right time, the right place to see anything myself. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop looking. And I sincerely hope one day, hopefully within my lifetime, once and for all, we can put this myth, this legend, this mystery of the most famous cryptid, undoubtedly, of all time to rest. I want to put it into a category of existence that's accepted by all. But if that ever happens, imagine what mainstream media would be in. It would be a total frenzy. I think science and academic scholars would shudder. They'd fall to their knees, because if we proved Bigfoot was real, then what about all the rest? I hope we can find out. So, Bill, is it time for headlines?
Yeah, I think we can talk about some headlines. From one piece of Bigfoot footage to another. From Unilad.com by Emily Brown, dated February 3rd, 2024. Man captures best footage ever recorded after spotting Bigfoot in the wild. Now, of course, there are countless photos and videos out there which claim to show the elusive Bigfoot wandering the forest, but a video shared by a YouTube user named Josh Highcliffe has been described as the best footage there is. Highcliffe shared the video online after his eerie encounter took place on his hunting property in Mississippi, about 9 miles west of Tunica. Along with the video, Highcliffe shared some context which explained why he had been hunting hogs in part of the swamp located not too far from a road. I was wearing hunting camo and just sitting dead still waiting for it to get dark, 'cause that's when the hogs come out. So while waiting, he heard a noise coming from behind the tree where he was sitting. First he thought it would be a hog, but when it came into view, he could not believe his eyes and saw, quote, a huge black thing crouched by a dead cypress about 50 yards away. Highcliffe insisted the creature wasn't a bear. Quote, I saw these big shoulders and a head upright with hands. It looked like it was digging out the stump. Now, even though his first instinct was to run away, Highcliffe began recording because he knew no one would believe him.
Absolutely.
Quote, I hear a truck driving down the road and the thing stood up. I was trying to be dead quiet. When it stood up, I could not control myself, and I ran. Insisting that the creature was not a bear, Highcliffe turned to the internet for answers, questioning if it was someone trying to prank him. Quote, I always heard stories of skunk ape and Honey Island swamp monster from these parts, but never thought about it being real. Has anyone seen anything like this in Mississippi? Now, after he shared the video, shocked viewers responded to share their thoughts and insist that he might be onto something. One viewer wrote, it looks so natural, like it's in its element. When you hear the crack of the wood when it rips it out, it sounds like it's got some real strength. Pretty convincing. One of the best videos I've seen. Another responded, this is one of my favorite Bigfoot videos. I notice that I hold my breath when I watch it. A third added, honestly, this is probably the best footage ever recorded. Amazing that it's not talked about more. It's now been more than a decade since Highcliffe recorded the footage, but Bigfoot still remains as elusive as ever. Now, I watched the video. It's a real little short clip because apparently he accidentally hit the record button again because he was shaking so badly. It's not shaky footage, though, and it does show, like, through the trees, you can see, like, the back of a creature. It's kind of hunched over, and it's, like, in front of this old cypress tree, and you can hear it, like, ripping it apart with its bare hands. It's pretty... the one who said you can hear the strength in it, yeah, you can hear that snap. It sounds pretty real.
Well, my headline was from a February 2nd, 2024 article in the Cowboy State Daily, that's of Wyoming, where they shared a story. A video posted Wednesday that claims to have been shot through a telescope from 3 miles away shows someone or something traversing a steep snow-covered mountain slope in Utah. The video's gone viral across social media. The people who took it claim that it's the footage of Sasquatch, because no human could move like that over such steep terrain in the Wasatch Mountains. There's also video taken later supposedly showing the creature's footprints left there in the snow. Now, the footage seems genuine to the Cheyenne couple Shannon and Stetson Parker, and they would know. The Parkers claim they also spotted and captured video of Sasquatch in October from a train in Colorado. That is so cool that they got the tracks, Shannon told Cowboy State Daily after reviewing the Utah video footage for the first time Friday. The ever-elusive creature resurfaces, Stetson Riley added. In October, the Parkers were taking an afternoon train ride on a narrow-gauge railroad through the San Juan Mountains between Silverton and Durango, Colorado. Stetson at the time told Cowboy State Daily they were scanning the adjacent slopes for elk when they saw something entirely different. A large bipedal figure striding through the brush. They managed to capture a short cell phone video, which shows the unidentified bipedal taking several steps, then setting down. After the Parkers posted their video, it practically broke the internet. The people who shot the Utah footage claim to have spotted a creature high on a high, open mountain slope in broad daylight at roughly 9,000 feet of elevation and 3 miles away. They caught the video by placing the camera lens in a spotted scope viewfinder. The steep alpine slope is claimed to have been covered with 90 inches of snow. Yes, I said 90 inches of snow. And yet the creature in the video moves speedily and effortlessly across the slope, traveling at an upward angle. The figure pauses for a while near a tree before taking off again at a seemingly impossible speed. Again, all in 90 inches of snow. Now, for comparison, there's also footage of a 6-foot-tall man struggling clumsily to get through 18 inches of snow on a comparatively gentle slope compared to what they had videotaped. Now, a helicopter pilot who saw the video of whatever it was speeding across this open area, was so impressed, he decided to fly over the area days later, and he caught images of what are claimed to be large footprints in the snow going in a straight line. Sasquatch enthusiasts say the footprints going in a straight line rather than offset like human footprints are a hallmark of the legendary creature.
Wow.
I can't imagine anything moving in 90 inches of snow.
I was going to say,
less at an angle
if you get
on a
to
mountain.
if you get to a foot of snow for a normal person, that gets tricky.
I'm going to tell you, when we went to Virginia and North Carolina, walking in the sand on the beach, I mean, your foot sinks a few inches. It does a number on you. I mean, just walking through the sand.
It would, well, you said 90 inches.
90 inches.
So if you think about what that translates to.
How tall is this thing to even see it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to see like a little snow bump.
All right. So for my question, Eric, Bob Hieronymus claims that they offered him $1,000 to put on that costume and walk out in the woods.
Substantial amount of money.
Back in the 70s. Let's triple it. Let's say we're going to triple that.
$3 grand.
$3 grand. If somebody came to you and offered you $3 grand, would you participate in a Bigfoot hoax? And if so, if you said yes, what would your role in the hoax be?
Well, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I am I'm not sure the proper term to use this. I hate cooties. I'm
germaphobe?
A germaphobe for sure. If I was to ever put any costume on, it better be new, or I ain't putting no slimy, stinky costume on. It would go against my grain of my belief.
Yeah.
However, $3,000 is a substantial amount of money.
It's a good bit of money.
I guess it would depend on what exactly are you asking me to do? I mean, are you asking me to be out there for a week long and traipsing around in 90 inches of snow on a mountain peak? No, if you want me to do something smaller, I might consider it, but it would go against my grain. I mean, I'm going to get into my question. Do you truly believe in Bigfoot? And I think I know your answer. My answer is yes. So because I do believe in it, I don't want to be a part of tearing that down any more than it's already been done.
And I'm kind of the same way. I believe there's something out there. Again, it's another one of those when you reflect on the vampire story, every culture has a story of a creature like this. We've covered, how many episodes have we done about Bigfoot themed things so far?
Yeah.
And we haven't come close to covering all of it.
Oh, no.
There's so many different stories.
I believe in Bigfoot way more than I believe in a vampire existence.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
And I'm like you. I don't think I would want to participate because I wouldn't want to muddy those waters. I wouldn't want to be the guy sitting there when finally someone goes, "Oh, we've got proof," and be like, "Well, I was the guy in the costume."
Yeah. I don't want to be that guy. So I guess that's my answer.
But again,
I would have to say no.
If someone come up and offered a good sum of money, it'd be hard to say no.
Now, if someone offered me $25,000 or $50,000,
hey, we can pay off all your bills right now if you just throw on an ape suit.
I might become that guy.
I wouldn't want to. Let's say that morally. Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
I wouldn't want to.
But man, if I could wipe out all my debt in one go,
that would be tempting. So let me rephrase. I'll actually do another question because mine was obviously, do you believe in Bigfoot? So Bill, I am going to add, do you believe Bigfoot exists?
Yeah, I think so.
In some form. So assuming we both are on the same page there, which I knew we were, let's say on the outskirts of Lebanon, we get a Facebook tip on our Nightmares on the Lost Highway Facebook page. Shameless plug where you can contact us and talk to us. A guy calls or basically posts and he says, "I want you guys to come out and look at something. I've got a cow that's been killed or sheep or whatever, and I have tracks. Now, it's going to rain. Got to get out of here quick." Would you go? And more importantly, what would you take and what would you expect?
I wouldn't go alone. This is us.
We got to do this together. We're doing this together. I agree with that. Yep. I got your back. You got mine.
I mean, I know you're supposed to bring plaster, right? But I don't know that I'm the guy for that.
I would
have my camera.
I would have the plaster.
I'd have my camera. So you got that covered. I'd have my camera. I'd bring an open mind, but I'd be skeptical to be, I don't want 100%. I may have touched on this on an earlier episode, but this seems like a good place to talk about it. And obviously, I think I know your answer by the fact that you're like, I'll bring the plaster. God, this would have been 20-something years ago, it seems like. More than that, even. I was hanging out with some friends, and the guy tells me, just kind of unprovoked. But again, I've been into this my whole life. He goes, my mother-in-law told me something weird the other day. She said that she was driving down this road, and I knew this road very well. I'd been on this road multiple times, and it was kind of middle of nowhere. So they turned a corner, and her and his brother-in-law both vouched for this. His brother-in-law was in the car. Said as they turned the corner, a big man-like shape disappeared into the woods on the right-hand side of the road.
Now, where was this at?
This was out towards Dixon,
Okay.
where I was. My friends lived there. I had already moved into the Waynesville area at that point, but that's sort of where I went to high school. I say that's where I grew up.
The Lakeway area and all that.
Well, Dixon's another 30 miles on the other side. We saddled up like immediately. I was like,
drop everything.
What are we waiting for? Why aren't we there right now?
Yeah, right.
We got in the car, we drove out, we pulled off the side of the road, we went up, like, we retraced as close as we could, like, okay, she said she was driving and then she did right.
I assume trying to find tracks or any evidence.
We walked along the road back and forth for a while, and then, I don't want to tell too many people this, we kind of went through the fence and went for a good long ways in the direction that she said she saw this thing go. Like, we looked, and then it was getting on, like...
That farmer is listening right now. It's like, that's those pesky kids that crossed my fence that night.
I think there's a statute of limitations. It's got to be over, less than 20 years. We sat up there as it got dark and just sat there and listened. We didn't have conversation. We just sat there.
Right.
Because we wanted to see.
I think that's smart.
We wanted to see if we heard something. We wanted to see if we saw something. And that direction went up a hill, so we had a pretty good view of the area, this little valley. But yeah, I mean, 100%. If somebody was like, hey, I've got prints, or hey, I saw, heck, you don't even have to have prints. Just tell me you saw the thing.
Yeah.
And I would show up.
Yeah. We'll look for prints. Well, my answer, I've already answered, is yes. I am going. I'm taking plaster with me. We're going to get those cast before the rain comes, because there's a weird part of me. I have so many weird aspects, as you know, but I would love just to own a legitimate Bigfoot casting.
What you thought was legitimate.
What I thought, yes.
I mean, something
especially
that you think,
personal related. I took this. I cast this.
Well, have you ever seen pictures of the cripple foot cast?
Yes.
Where it's clear that the foot had been
Something
broken and reset.
deformed.
And,
Yep.
like, yeah, I mean, something like that. Like, how does somebody, I mean, even if you faked it, who would think to do it?
Right. And I would take that casting and make a copy probably, and I would frame that like in a shadow box and proudly hang that somewhere in my home. And my wife would probably say not visible in a public area, but so.
Sort of like some of the things in my house.
Yeah. Megalodon teeth and all that weird stuff. So yes, I would definitely be right there with you. I'd have your back, and with plaster in hand, I would probably pack a little ammo and a pistol,
little protection,
just in case.
I was thinking it.
I will say that
not because I'm afraid of Sasquatch. I will say that.
Yeah.
I am more afraid of people than I am the Sasquatch.
There's shady stuff that goes down that's unresolved
these boys out.
Yeah. Yeah, he was right back here down off this ledge.
He's right back here in this shed.
Yeah, go on in.
You boys go on in. I don't. That would scare. I creep myself out a little bit.
Hear banjos playing in the background. We hope that you've enjoyed a glimpse back of 1967, the Patterson-Gimlin, undoubtedly most famous Bigfoot video photography ever shot, and we're still talking about it today. We hope that you've enjoyed the ride. Thanks for listening, folks.
Hey, real quick call to action. I think Eric would agree. We'd like to grow this Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Absolutely.
If you could, if you're listening on Apple, if you would go and give us a review and rate us. If you have some feedback, that's fine too. Whatever platform you're listening, follow us, rate us, give us some reviews. That helps get some recognition and gets our name out there.
We do have a Facebook page, Nightmares on the Lost Highway. You can easily find us if you want to communicate with us. If you want to share some possibilities for future podcasts with us, reach out. We want to talk with you guys. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed a glimpse back in 1967 to the Patterson-Gimlin. Okay.
I want to take a time to thank the people that helped bring this all together. Alex Tudor, you can almost call him our producer at this point. Sarah Tudor, who also helps with some of the technical stuff. I want to take a moment to extend thanks to Eric for letting us use his space to record in, kind of our makeshift studio.
I, in turn, would like to thank Bill for, one, putting up with me and using this camaraderie to do something we both very much love and enjoy doing, and thank Bill's family for allowing him to spend all the time to work and clean up our recordings and present them in what you hear in the final terms, the final edition, if you will.
And I'd like to thank all of you for continuing to listen. I know we've got some loyal followers out there. We do this as a labor of love, but we're happy that there are people that enjoy it hopefully as much as we do.
Thank you very much.